Hello there. My name is Jasom Jensai, and welcome to my sixth stream, Jasom Jensai Hangout 6. I don't have a good name for it yet. Basically, this is just a time where I can hang out with you, talk Star Wars, and basically I got a few topics, but mainly this is just time for talking Star Wars with the community. So I'm looking forward to this episode. Last episode was good. I changed the format a bunch. So, basically, instead of having just comments over a Mandalorian episode, I have a bunch of topics, one of which is review of a Mandalorian episode. This episode is episode 6. It's one of my favorites. Super excited to review it. I got half a page of notes written down. It's pretty cool. I also got who's my favorite Star Wars characters, and feel free, if you're watching, leave those in the chat when we get to that part. I'd love to hear it. That's why I'm doing these streams, to communicate with, or to discuss Star Wars with you. I don't want to just tell you my opinions. I want to hear yours. And if you're watching after, feel free to leave something in the comments. I'd love to read that too, and I'll respond. The other thing that we're going to be doing is a analysis or review of Duel of the Fates. If you've seen Shadiversity's Flight Autopsy, it'll be similar to that, but with less technical sword info and more studying of force powers and motivations, that kind of thing. It'll still have technical sword kind of stuff like that, but not as much. But first, we've got the question of the stream. Again, if you can think of a better name than question of the stream, because I really don't like that name, please say something in the chat or say something in the comments, because I really don't like that name, but I can't think of anything better. So basically, for those of you who don't know, question of the stream, if you answer the question first, you have to be the first one, which means if you're watching live, you have a significant advantage. So tune in every Saturday night. Say it live. You'll get 10 points. Of course, no one's answered it from the last stream yet. So if you want 10 points from there too, you could go back and get 10 points there and 10 points here if you know it. Please don't look up the answer just to say, you can look up the answer, but if you look up the answer, please don't answer as though you knew what it was. There's no way to enforce that, but please just do that. So anyways, without further ado, for 10 points, the question of the stream is, what color of lightsaber blade does Jedi Master Sinube have? So if you know, say something in the chat, say something in the comments, unless someone already has, I don't know. And this is for 10 points. That's a lot. Alright, let's move on to the first official segment, and that is my review of The Mandalorian, Episode 6. Okay, so I know a lot of people don't like this episode. Hishi doesn't. If you saw how it should have ended for The Mandalorian Season 1, nothing wrong with this episode. I mean, what I would say the problem I have with this episode, and there's details, but the big one I have with this is it doesn't connect very well to the rest of the Mandalorian story. So, instead, it's just another one where he's surviving, he does a job, he gets paid, and he survives. And that's it. They reference the rest of the story, but it's not the main thing that they're talking about. But other than that, it's a great episode. I used to think filler was the worst, and I would always love serialized. I think that's the right word. Basically, every episode connects to the main plot. But Mando has kind of changed my opinion on that. And this episode is part of that. Because this episode is one of my favorites. But it's just a one episode thing. I mean, we might see them come back. I'll get to that later. So, immediately, Mando flies into this hangar thing, and they've got a ton of super detail. It's so super detailed. They've got sparks flying. They've got ships everywhere. Lots of details to keep track of. you immediately get a sense of like what this place is and what type of people he's interacting with. And then Rand walks up and is like, "Hey Mando, how you doing?" All that stuff, but in a Rand sort of way. So you know who Rand is too. I just feel like they really they did great at showing rather than telling. Um so yeah, they didn't have to say, "Oh, this is a like shady place where Mando is not going to trust anyone." You can tell he doesn't trust anyone. No one trusts him. No questions asked. That's the policy. So immediately the environment set up very well. Um, and then one more thing I want to comment on here is when he meets Mayfelt, the stormtrooper joke where he's like, he's an Imperial sharpshooter. And Mando's like, "That's not impressive." And then Mayfeld's like, "I'm not a stormtrooper." It's pretty funny. I mean, until I don't like the scene in episode 8 where the stormtroopers are missing. I think that's going a little bit too far. But, because, I mean, they're really not as bad as everyone says they are until that scene. So, but I could see it being a thing where stormtroopers in universe are thought of as bad aim, like super bad shots. I suppose the episode 8 guys are scout troopers, but I'll get into my thoughts on that scene in 2 weeks or whatever. So yeah, the stormtrooper joke, super funny. Yeah. Then he meets the rest of the team. You see Berg, you see what's her name? Shien, Zero, the droid. Also, this episode had a lot of Mando hates droids moments. Pretty great. Yeah, so you meet the team. They're pretty interesting. We get to see a Devaronian. That's cool. Shien is kind of insane. I mean, it's interesting. Mayfeld has a lot of blasters. That's interesting. Zero is he's really, really powerful. I think he's underrated, actually. I'll get into him later, too. So you meet the team, you go to the prison, it's super tense. They see Baby Yoda, they make a few jokes about it. They try to get Mando to take his helmet off. The part where Berg is looking into the weapons thing. I just went through that scene backwards. Yeah, so the part where Berg is looking into the weapons thing and it closes, it's pretty funny. So what I mean by I went through it backwards is I started with him finding Yoda, then I went to them taking his mask off, then I went to Berg looking at the weapons, when it plays out opposite of that. So, oops, oh well. You guys have seen the episode. You know what I'm talking about. So, what happens next? They get to the prison, and that cool device Mando uses to open up the door. Pretty interesting. You can kind of like tell somewhat how it works. It's like overriding the system with like electrical pulses or something. I don't know. But it's like, I don't know. It seems kind of manual. Like most people just use a droid, but of course Mando is going to use that cool little device thing. I think it's cool. Yeah, so they get to the ship, they sneak around. Their tactics seem pretty good. I mean, they sneak around pretty effectively. Not much to say about it. It's pretty standard. I know the drill, as Mando says. Yeah, but then they get to the part where Berg destroys the mouse droid and the robots attack. First thing I want to say is, unfortunately, those robots don't really look very Star Warsy. Like, I don't know what it is about them. I think it's that war robots. I don't know. I think it's their hips. Their hips aren't like they. Star Wars droids don't have very ball jointy hips. They have more. I don't know what it's called. It's like your elbow joints. They seem more rigid and they only go front and back mostly. But those droids have like full range of movement there. Like even super battle droids, they can move a little bit, but it's not as much. And battle droids are even worse. They seem to basically only move like 2 ways. And there's probably a bit of flexibility, otherwise they wouldn't be effective at all. But like I think that's one of the things I think also they carry, well, I don't know what it is about them, but they don't seem very Star Warsy to me. I don't know. Tell me if the chat if you think they seem super Star Warsy. I'd love to hear your thoughts. Um, yeah. Anyways, so with that out of the way, I love that scene so much. So Mando disappears, and they realize that as they're making a joke about him, saying, "Oh, aren't you supposed to be some good warrior?" And then he's gone. That's great. And then Mando comes in and takes on 8 droids, and they just stand there, like trying to see how good he is. Like they're like testing him basically, and they're obviously impressed, but they don't want to show it. Yeah, and it is impressive. Like he only gets hit by their blasters like 3 or 4 times. I should have counted, but he doesn't get hit very often. And it's an 8-on-1. Like he's not a Jedi. 8-on-1 is significant. He's just a guy with cool weapons. And he doesn't even use his electro staff / sniper thing. Sadly, I really wish we would get that back. That's one of my favorite weapons, and it's gone in this episode, in the next episode, in the next episode. Anyways, that aside, great choreography. I think the droids got destroyed a little bit too easily when he would yank them into each other and throw knives at them. Whereas blaster bolts wouldn't, like, I don't know, maybe they're just pretty flimsy droids or something, but takes them on pretty well, beats them up, super awesome scene. I don't know what else to say. He moves pretty fast, he uses all his weapons, gets hit in the Beskar only a few times, and takes out the droids like a super epic hero, because he is a super epic hero. Moving on, because I don't have eloquent words for that. One thing I want to mention is, yeah, actually I'll get to that later. Never mind. So they get to the control room and they see the New Republic person. He's the guy with the white shoes that matches his belt. Yeah, that joke was funny to me. Yeah, and that whole scene is super, like, they're all like joking around with him as he's pointing a blaster with him. He pulls out like a little like radio thing that and it just like suddenly gets super serious. I like that. It's just a cool touch. It shows they understand the characters, and the characters are, I don't know. It's not that they understand the characters, because they just made those characters. It's that it shows you what those characters are like, and it's really cool. Anyways, then Mando like tries to calm down the situation by. Jeremiah's not in here. Sorry, that's my dad. Anyways, I lost my train of thought. Yeah. So Mando tries to calm the situation down by saying, "Hey, we're not going to kill you," and Mayfeld's like, "Oh yes, we are." Like, I don't know what he was thinking, because I think Mando had it pretty well under control, and he could have just not said anything as soon as he puts it down, just kill him then. But then I like that they did that, because they get in this huge argument, about, like, it's super tense, because at any moment that guy could click the button and it's like certain doom, or at least that's what it seems like, or they could shoot at Mando, or Mando could shoot them, like, it's super tense, and then Shien just kills the eye, which seems like, oh, okay, I guess they're gonna escape, but he hits the button as he dies. So then Zero comes in the comm and says, "Hey, you have approximately 20 minutes." Like, I like the scene before that, and I like that the New Republic's coming to, like, take him out or whatever. Like, it's a cool distress call thing, but I don't think they should have given a time on it. And even if they didn't give a time on it, they definitely shouldn't have given a time when they arrive at the prison. They say 15 minutes. That means it takes 5 minutes to get from the control room to the prison. Then from there, Mando escapes, takes them all out, locks them up in the prison in under 15. Like, the timing doesn't make sense. They should have just left it vague. Like, I don't know. Sometimes I suppose it's good to have a time in your movies, um, so that you know. I don't know why, but you want to have some indication of time. Sometimes it would just only make sense if they have time, like the Death Star attack. They've got like full analysis team. They should definitely have time, but I don't know. Maybe they should just have left it vague. I don't think anyone would care if they didn't know exactly how long it would be, or approximately how long it would be until the New Republic got there. Because as it is, the timing just doesn't make sense. Um, yeah. What's the next part? So he's gonna sneak up on all the guys and kill them. Right. Okay. Before I talk about that, they get to the prison. Um, and the reveal of Quinn, like the door opens, and you see the purple Twi'lek, and we don't know him, but the music and Mando's reaction, and everyone else has a reaction, tells you everything you need to know. That um, Quinn is like an enemy of Mando, kind of like they don't like each other, but they have to work together sometimes. And then of course, Mando gets betrayed, which super. I don't know. I like that he got betrayed. It just makes sense with the characters that they've established. And then Quinn comes out, reveals that he's Shien's brother. They have this weird hug thing because they're both insane. Um, and then Mando escapes in like the most epic way possible, because they trapped him. They got him in prison, but they didn't take his weapon, so he was able to escape. Um, yeah. I lost my spot there. Okay, right. So yeah. So he escapes. Um, really like that escape. Super cool. He shoots through the thing, grabs the guy, is like not really choking, but it's like choking him against the wall. It's a droid. Rips off his arm. Um, I don't know how I feel about that like inky stuff that spews out of the arm. I think it would have been better if there hadn't been any. But then like the droid turns around and Mando just shoots him. Pretty cool. Um, so then he escapes, and of course the rest of the team, the four other guys, are running back to the Razor Crest. But Mando goes to the control room, and that makes sense. But it also means that Mando has a lot of power because he can control the lights, he can control the doors, he can jam the comms. He's got so much at his disposal there, and he puts it to really good effect. Like as soon as they realize that, like by the time they realize that Mando has escaped, like right as they realize, Mando turns off the lights, and like the red backup lights come on, and he starts shutting doors, and like that's freaky. If you're there, you're gonna start panicking. You're gonna start running. He also jams the comm somewhere around there so that they can't contact Zero, which is also scary because Zero's like the only one with information. He's the one who's outside of the situation they've been put in. So yeah, super scary. Gets them separated. Gets them panicked. Um, Good tactics. Although, if you only have like 10 minutes left to get out, you might not want to use that kind of I mean, you might want to split them up and then just dash for the door. But I don't know. You again, they shouldn't have given it time. I don't blame because this was cool to see. I would rather sacrifice the line about you have 20 minutes or you have 15 minutes rather than sacrifice the line about, or not the line, the entire scene of him hunting down everyone because that was cool. Um, then they go back to the Razor Crest and Zero is like super rational. He's like, "Yep, there's no comms. I'm not of any use anymore. Oh well. I'll keep decrypting this message." Um, then Baby Yoda shows up, and Zero like turns to get his gun, and he turns back, and without a sound, the child like vanished. Like he didn't like, ooh, force power vanish. It was like he ran away really fast. So I don't know. I just think this is showing that he's very stealthy because he didn't really make a sound, and I'm pretty sure Zero would be able to hear a lot of things just based on the other things he does. He's clearly very into optimizing. So he would download the best software. He would get as many upgrades as possible. I think he would have really good hearing. That's something that a droid would find pretty easy to improve. And yet he wasn't able to tell where Baby Yoda went. Also, he probably has infrared, so Baby Yoda's surprisingly stealthy. Just wanted to mention that. Okay, so then another thing is, so Mando is in the control room. The team can probably guess that if they're not too panicked to think. But only one of them thinks to go straight to Mando at the control room rather than just wandering around hoping they run into him. Or hoping they don't run into him in Quinn's case. Because Quinn super scared of Mando. And the one that does go to the control room is Berg. Like he's the muscle. He's not the brains. He's not supposed to think of things like that. But I suppose if you're thinking simply, you might just go straight to the source. Go straight to the control room and take him out. When he gets there, that battle is awesome. Mando's plan, super good. Just choke him from above. Don't have to get anywhere near those giant arms of his that will grab you and throw you around and mess with you a bunch. Just choke him with your little string thing. Which, by the way, how do those things work? I'm just gonna accept that they do work, because how do you control where it goes that intricately? That it's just incredible. But anyways, they've been seen all over Star Wars. I'm just gonna accept that Mandalorians have somehow figured out how to control ropes super effectively. Anyways, his plan fails because Berg is just extremely heavy and extremely strong. So he breaks the floor. And it wasn't that stable of a floor, but he still breaks the floor. And Mando falls down, and Berg starts beating him up. Actually, I'm gonna move this here so I don't have to turn my head. Yeah, so Berg starts beating him up, all that stuff. It's a great fight. I like how Mando tries to flamethrower Berg, and Berg just smiles. Mando stops flamethrowing when he sees it's not working, and Berg's head is steaming, but he's still smiling. He's like, I knew you would do that. It's pretty cool. That entire fight is super cool. Berg's showing a lot of strength. Mando's trying to pull out a blaster, but they're right next to each other. Fists are the way to go, which eventually is almost how he beats him. Berg tries to take off his helmet. Great reference to earlier. Also very scary for Mando, because that's one of the things he has to make sure he doesn't do, is have someone remove the mask forcibly from him. And so he does that trope that pretty much every fight ever, where you throw him over your head. I mean, yeah. Anyways, it might work. It's a cool move. I'm fine with Mando using it. I just think it's overused. But anyways, after doing that super overused move, that would probably not work in most cases, Mando uses his grapple thing to shut the door, which I thought was so awesome. I love when he uses that thing to shut doors and stuff. Well, most of the time. It's also good in episode 3 when he uses it to turn on the steam and shoot Greef Karga. That was a cool moment. Yeah, just good strategy. Shuts the door on him. But of course, Berg stands up, which also is another thing that I'm like, oh, that is so awesome. Because of course he can just lift the door. But then even better is Mando slams the blast doors closed. It's awesome thing. Also awesome thing. The most awesome thing. Great ending to the fight. Then he meets up with Mayfeld, I think, is next. Let me consult my notes. Yeah, okay. I think it's Mayfelt. I don't have it written in my notes. Oh well. That scene was. Oh no, it is. Shien next. That fight's pretty good. He uses his Bhaskar armor to block. Shien shows off her throwing knife skills, and Mando shows off his blocking things with his armor, and then getting a knife to your throat skills, which are good skills to have if you're a Mandalorian. Then he battles Mayfelt. This one wasn't as interesting of a fight. Like the choreography, there wasn't really any, but the scene of him just sneaking up and then Mayfelt turning around and Mando's behind him. It doesn't make that much sense, but it doesn't have to. That scene is purely for the kind of horror-y elements. I don't know. Maybe that's a thing that's super common in horror movies. I don't watch horror movies. I don't know. But it's kind of something that I picked up as a trope in horror movies is the flashing lights, the guy slowly sneaking up, and then suddenly being behind you. And then Mayfelt's yell is pretty good. He's like, ah! Which is a good reaction. That's what I'd expect. So yeah. And then he meets up with Quinn, and they've got a great discussion about honor and getting the job done, and you want your credits, right? And Quinn's like begging for his life, basically. Well, he's negotiating for his life. Yeah, and oh, the line where he's like, "You killed the rest, didn't you? They got what they deserved." That one's good. I like that Mando is like, he's brutal, but he's also honorable. I like that about him. Right. However, he's especially brutal to droids. So it's revealed, you probably know this, it's revealed that he didn't kill Shien, Mayfelt, or Berg. He just threw them in the prison, on the prison ship that no one is going to find for a long time, and is just floating in space with no one piloting it. That might be worse than death. But anyways, the point is he left those three alive, but he killed the droid, because he hates droids. Every time they mention that Mando doesn't like droids in this episode is good. Like, okay, some are kind of neutral, but most of them are pretty good. I like that they have the prison ship guarded by pretty much only droids. Just the one guy, the guy whose shoes match his belt. Anyways, it's guarded by pretty much just droids. So that's a lot of stuff for Mando to beat up. What else do I have here? Right, how Mando beats Ran. That's a great ending. When I first saw it, I didn't see it coming. There's clues. He like picks it up and looks at it. But I didn't see it. I'm not that good at seeing things that are. I'm not good at like seeing the hints and putting them together while I'm watching a movie. Like if I've got time after the movie, if it's something I'm interested in, I'll be able to figure out some stuff, figure out some theories. I don't actually do that too much though, because my theories are ultimately going to be better, in my opinion, than whatever they come up with. So then I'm going to be disappointed. So I try not to do that much, but it's super interesting to come up with theories. But anyways, while I'm watching, I try to just enjoy it. And so I didn't notice that he like looked at it and at the thing he could have done. So when the X-Wings showed up, or when Quinn looks down and is like, "Oh, what is this?" And then the X-Wings pop up. That's pretty great. Yeah, I like how Mando beats him. Super cool. Gets his money. Tells Baby Yoda that's a bad idea, but it worked out anyways. So that's all the specific things I have about this video. Overall, like I said at the beginning, this episode is kind of filler. It doesn't really impact the plot. if it didn't happen, sure, you'd miss like part of the timeline, but and you would miss a great episode, but you wouldn't miss a key part of his story. It's like missing one battle of the Clone Wars. Not well, unless it's a very important battle, nothing significant, or at least nothing significant to the main characters happens. Like, so it's kind of filler, but it's not a bad episode. In fact, it's one of my favorites. I enjoyed it a lot more than I thought I would on when I rewatched it earlier today. I don't know. I would say it's maybe my third favorite, maybe fourth. I don't know. I really enjoy it. I think it's got the best choreography, some of the best jokes, a great concept, even though it wasn't that connected to the rest of the story. Still a cool concept. It showed a bit more of Mando's history, specifically his dealings with Ran, and he spent some amount of his life running around with him, getting some target practice. Again, the jokes in this are great. Yeah, great episode, kind of filler, but super enjoyable. One of my favorites. Okay, that's all I gotta say about that. If you're watching live, I would like you to tell me what you're thinking about this episode in the comments, or in the chat, not the comments. If you're watching the rebroadcast, tell me in the comments. Because I wanted to talk Star Wars with you, and I've just said pretty much everything I can. So it's your turn. I am expecting a 5-page essay by tomorrow. Let's move on to the next segment, since no one commented. By the way, if you want to say something about this segment, like while I'm doing the next one, I might not answer it right away, but I'll get to it. So just chat, even if it took you a while to write up your 5-page essay. I don't know why it would take you longer than a few seconds, though. Anyways, let's move on to the best Star Wars characters. Man, that blue letters are, I don't like them anymore. I should have done a different color. Oh well. So I wrote up a list of my top 10 characters, but I'm going to be honest, if you ask me what my top 10 Star Wars characters are tomorrow, it's probably going to be different. It's going to be mostly the same, but there's definitely going to be a few spots that switch, and like the last two, actually the last two might stay there. Number 8 will probably go down. So I'm just going to go through my list, starting at 10, going up to 1, maybe then say a few other characters I really like. Yeah, let's just get into it. So number 10 is Kit Fisto. So we don't see very much of him, which is kind of sad, but I mean, he's pretty cool. Like, he's one of the only Jedi to beat Grievous. Sure, other ones would probably be able to, but he's one of the only ones to like cut off a hand, knock him down. I mean, if it weren't for his Magna Droids, he would have beat him. It's pretty obvious. Other ones, it's like, they might have beat him. They probably would have. But Fisto, it's like, oh, he would have beat him if it weren't for the Magna Guards. That entire episode, the one where he goes to Grievous's lair, if you weren't sure what I was talking about, is pretty good. It shows that Fisto is a Jedi he knows the Jedi code, he knows the Jedi way, and he follows it. But one thing that I really like about him is you can tell that he is satisfied with his life. It's not like, this is like my responsibility, this is my purpose. This is what I was born to do. I am a Jedi, and so I'm going to serve the galaxy. I guess I'll fight a war for the Republic. Probably a mistake, but it was cool. Another thing is, I'm sure you've heard of this. It's his smile. I just love that Fisto can be in the middle of a battle, and he does something kind of cool, and he just grins. It's great. In fact, one of the reasons I like him is because I'm not in the middle of a battle, but like I'll do something and I'll just grin exactly like that. It's pretty funny. It's rather rare. I don't do it super often, but it's kind of funny when I do. And every time I think of Kit Fisto, it's great. Um, yeah, I'm usually doing something like super serious, and something will happen, and I'll just smile exactly like that, even though I'm not a Nautilon. Also, by the way, Nautilons look super cool. If you didn't know, the green, the tentacles, yeah, super cool. I like his fighting style. Um, um, One thing I don't like is his duel with Sidious. It's kind of short, but oh well. I just don't like that duel that much, to be honest. Um, Maybe, yeah, I'll probably do a duel review similar to the one I'm doing later in the episode. So stay watching for Duel of the Fates, which I'm gonna do a analysis review thing of. Again, I don't have good names for these segments, so if you've got an idea, the first one is like a review, the second one, and it's like a, yeah, so the first one is like a review of some Star Wars media. The next one is like, what's my opinion about something, and what's your opinion too? Tell me in the chat. Who are some of your favorite characters? And the next one is some sort of more. It's not so much an opinion question. It's more like a theory or a logic based question or an analysis of a duel, which I'll probably do more of. But my first one was like, what is Maul's plan for the Siege of Mandalore? This one is just analyzing a duel. So yeah, if you've got great names for those segments, please tell me because I don't have any. It's kind of sad, actually. Okay, moving on to number 9. It's gonna be Sabine Wren. First of all, I just want to mention one of the reasons I like Sabine Wren so much is because of her musical theme. That theme is so good. If you haven't listened to her theme or you don't remember what it is, I suppose most of you probably don't listen to that style of music just for fun, but if you want, you probably should look up like Sabine's Darksaber theme or just Sabine theme or something. If you know Samuel Kim, he made a theme about it, and it includes that part, of course. Pretty good. It's one of my favorites, but I like the one I like the most is the original one. Not the original one. The one made for the Darksaber episode. I think it's like Sabine's Darksaber theme or something. I don't know. Maybe I'll leave a link to it in the description if I remember. So yeah, check that out after the stream or before. I don't really care that much. Yeah, so check out the music. Super cool. One of the best I've heard. Very emotional. Very exciting. But moving on to Sabine herself, she's a Mandalorian who fights for the rebellion. That's pretty cool. She uses bombs, also pretty cool. But another thing is she's an artist, and she's got a lot of abstract art. Not fully abstract. It's like she draws something, but it's not like a copy. It's not like she took a picture of it. It's like she drew a stylized version of it, which is, I really like stylized versions of things. So you might notice in all my thumbnails, instead of having like a picture of Ahsoka, I have like artist drawing Ahsoka like on a TIE fighter, just drawing stuff, and it's super stylized, and it's not the exact format of whatever it came from. It's stylized. I like that style of artwork, and Sabine does that. I just think her motivations are super interesting, and I see a lot of myself in her. Like in that Darksaber episode where she's training with Kanan, I think that's where I didn't notice it my first time watching Rebels, but after rewatching it, that scene was like super emotional and one of the best scenes in Star Wars, actually. Moving on to my number 8, it is Obi-Wan Kenobi. this character is just so fun. Like, he's a Jedi. He's he's like he's a great Jedi. He doesn't like listen to his emotions that much. What like he's not super emotional. He's not turning to the dark side. I can't see him turning to the dark side. Like that's something cool about him. But he's not so like serious all the time. He's making jokes all the time. He's kind of like a more kid-friendly version of Quinlan Voss, which is actually I should have him on this list. I knew I would forget some characters. Oh well, Quinlan Voss is a cool character too. For the same reasons as Kenobi, he's just fun to watch because he's always making jokes. And he's just having a good time being a Jedi. The other thing with Kenobi is he's really tough. Like, he's not the most talented swordsman. He's definitely not the most talented Force user. But he's willing to fight to the end. And the one thing that I always think of when I think of Kenobi's resilience is that battle with the Zygerian slaver. When they go to, I forget what the name is, the Togrutas like homeland, and they had taken all the, it's in the Clone Wars, and they had taken all of the Togrutans like slaves, but they didn't know that yet. And Kenobi confronts the Zygerian guy and challenges him to like a duel with no weapons, and he just gets beat up for like 5 minutes straight before Anakin like disables the last bomb or whatever, and he just force pulls his lightsaber, activates it, crushes the commando droids, just awesome, just takes them out super easy, barely an inconvenience. Yeah, it just shows that he's super tough, and he's gonna, yeah, just shows that he's super tough. I like that about him. He's resilient, and I think part of that is that he's always making jokes. He doesn't focus on the negatives. I think he focuses on the mission, on what he has to do, and on making that as fun as possible. So number 7 on the list is Luke Skywalker. When I think of Luke Skywalker, the word I always think of is hope. He is the new hope for the rebellion. The Death Star is made. They have this tiny chance to take it out. And it looks like it's not that hard. I used to bullseye womp rats back in my Skyhopper thing on Tatooine in Beggar's Canyon. He's always hopeful. He's always looking to a brighter future. And I think that's super inspiring. Another example of his hope is, what do you call it? Right. It's, he wasn't willing to kill his Vader. Or his father. Speaking a different language now. By the way, I don't know for sure. I haven't fact checked this, but I'm pretty sure Vader means father in like Dutch or something. I don't know. It's just a random fact I remember from like 3 years ago. Anyways, he wasn't willing to kill his father because he felt some good in him and hoped. He had hope. He had faith that Vader would turn on the Emperor and save his son. Yeah, so I think hope is the best way to describe Luke. I mean, he's the main character of the original trilogy and a significant character in the sequel trilogy. So we just get a lot of time with him for his character to develop. I think most people would rank him higher than I did, but he's still a great character. All right, moving on to number 6 is Qui-Gon Jinn. This Qui-Gon Jinn he's cool in the movies. He's actually he's a really good character in the movies, but he's even better in the book Master and Apprentice. In the movies, he's okay. I'm just gonna go and try and explain what I think about Qui-Gon Jinn and compare that to what I've heard other people say. a lot of people consider Qui-Gon Jinn to be a gray Jedi of sorts. He's willing to like affect a dice roll. He's willing to bet on Anakin. He's taking chances. He's defying the council. Like, so they see him as a gray Jedi. But I and many other people would argue that he's not a gray Jedi. A gray Jedi uses the light side and the dark side equally. I don't even know how that works, but it does. But Qui-Gon Jinn uses the light side. He just doesn't do it in as rigid of a manner. He doesn't follow a set of rules as much as he follows a way of life. One of the characters that like contrasts against him and demonstrates my point is Luminara Unduli. Luminara Unduli is a great Jedi. She followed the Jedi code like super well. Like Barriss Offee is one of the most like she memorized the Geonosian catacombs. That might be a bit like overpowered if she can memorize the entire Geonosian catacombs. But the point is that Luminara is I might be using this word wrong, diligent. Like she follows the code basically. However, Qui-Gon Jinn, while following the light just as much, doesn't follow the code as much as he follows the Jedi way. So he's gonna, if it helps people, if it's selfless to do so, he's gonna affect the dice roll. He's gonna make it so that Anakin survives or gets freed. If it's benefit to do so, he's gonna bet on Anakin because he knows through the Force that Anakin is gonna win. If it is in his power to help people, he will, even if it defies the Jedi Council. So he's not so much a gray Jedi as he is a Jedi who is willing to sacrifice the rules for the spirit of the rules. So yeah, tell me what you think of that in the chat or the comments. That's how I see Qui-Gon Jinn, a master Jedi. And a great example for people aspiring to become a great Jedi like him. Moving on to number 5. This character I don't like for his goodness, his Jedi traits, following the Jedi way. This character is Darth Sidious. So this isn't my, what character would you want to learn from, or what character would you want to hang out with. This is my favorite characters. So I'm going to have Darth Sidious, the strongest Sith ever, at least in canon so far. I think he should remain the strongest. He's pretty strong, especially in The Rise of Skywalker. Which is, I would put him higher if it weren't for The Rise of Skywalker. So let's start with the prequels. Actually, let's just start with what he accomplished during the prequel era. So, he's a Sith Lord who wants to kill the Jedi and take over the galaxy. And he succeeds in not only making the entire Senate, okay, not the entire Senate, most of the Senate agree that he should literally be the emperor of the galaxy. But at the same time, like within the same week, he wipes out, probably within the same day, I would assume, he wipes out like 99% of the Jedi Order, probably 99.9%. Like, he is extremely successful. And this is funny because it's making me think of the sequels. It's because he is a master at planning. Really, it's Bane who is the master, like the original master at planning. But he's a master at contingencies. He's a master at simplifying things. He's a master at manipulation. As I said, he convinced the entire Senate to make him emperor. Not the entire Senate. He is the Senate, but whatever. He convinced the Senate to make him emperor. How did he do this? He started a war. So not only is he ambitious, cunning, just all around evil, he's greedy, that kind of stuff. he's oh, I forgot where I was going. He's ruthless. He doesn't care about all the people that died in the Clone Wars. All he cares about is that he became emperor and that the Jedi were wiped out. Um, Everything was so planned. I think everyone can agree that Darth Sidious is one of the great. Like a lot of people point to Sidious as like the most powerful Sith, and they're like, oh, he could beat Yoda. He could probably beat Mace. That's up for debate a bit, but he's super powerful in like combat. But I think more impressive than his combat abilities is his politician abilities. For one, as I've repeatedly mentioned, he became emperor, took out the Jedi, and just took over the entire galaxy. But he did this not only through his expert planning, but if it weren't for his Force cloak, it wouldn't be possible. So he is a Sith Lord, one of the most powerful ever. A Jedi, any Jedi should be able to sense that. But he is so powerful, he was able to sit in front of council members, whole groups of them, for, I would assume, hours at a time, and just hide his identity through his Force Cloak abilities. That ability is so impressive. So I don't think he's the most powerful because of his fighting abilities. I think he's extremely powerful because of his political abilities, which he demonstrates so well. So in the prequels, super impressive. However, I'm not quite as impressed with him in the originals. And by the way, the reason why I'm talking about how powerful he is, rather than like things I like about him, is because that is why I like him, is because he's so powerful and smart and intelligent. That's why I like him. So, anyways, we get back to the originals, and he makes the Death Star, which, I mean, I guess when you read like Lost Stars, what else is there? I don't know if it's mentioned in Tarkin. You read the second Thrawn book. What is it? Thrawn Alliances. The third one, Thrawn Treason. Actually, is it mentioned? Yeah, it's mentioned in Thrawn Alliances. You read the Thrawn books, basically just understanding what it was designed to do, what like the anticipated reaction to it was. It makes sense. Like, who's gonna fight the Death Star? No one, right? But Galen Erso ruined it. Luke Skywalker ruined it. Bye bye Death Star. However, building a second Death Star wasn't really that good of an idea. Like, the first one failed pretty spectacularly. I don't think you need a second one. Yeah. So that idea, not quite as impressed with. But the thing is, Palpatine isn't a tactician. He's not like like in the Navy. He's a politician. He's he's amazing. He's brilliant at coming up with plots to take over the galaxy and destroy his enemies. He's not so good at maintaining his power. He had all the foresight to get the clone army ready to start the Clone Wars, to manipulate so much, to have so many contingencies, but he didn't know what he would do when he got there, which I think is very representative of the dark side. It's like as a whole. Most darksiders probably seek power for the sake of power rather than to have something to do with the power. So yeah. However, how he used the second Death Star was super brilliant, and I'm sure he had advisors who gave him the idea and stuff, but choosing that idea was a great one, even though it didn't work out so well. Just think about what would have happened if the rebellion basically didn't get lucky. He had the entire rebel fleet surrounded, outnumbered like 2-1 at least, interdictors everywhere, they couldn't escape, and he had a functioning Death Star surrounded by a shield that you couldn't fly through. What was the rebellion going to do? Sure, they had a ground force to take out the shield, but they had been captured. How would the rebellion escape this? Of course, the answer comes through Ewoks pretty hard to expect. um, if Ewoks is the only flaw in your plan, you've got a pretty solid plan. So anyways, he dies. Maybe, kind of. I really need to read the novelization of The Rise of Skywalker, but the novels are kind of boring to me. I've always tried to read them, but I always get bored and stop. They're hard to get through. But I'm pretty sure what happens is, as he's dying, he does the Force Power Essence transfer from Legends, transfers to a clone body, but it doesn't go so well for some reason, and I guess he makes more clones and stuff, and Rey's dad was a clone or something, which doesn't make any sense, because that means he had cloned him, like, let's see, Rey is, how old is Rey? Probably 20 at the youngest. That means she was born 10 years, so yeah, oh wow, so yeah, so Rey's dad was probably born before the first Death Star. That's very likely. Or not born, grown. He's a clone, I think. So anyways, that the whole Palpatine coming back in The Rise of Skywalker, I really don't like it. Essence transfer is an ability I wish they would not have added. And then there's his portrayal in The Rise of Skywalker, where he's this creepy old guy who you can't really tell if he's dead or not. It's kind of vague. You can't really tell if he died or not. It's kind of vague. You have to read the novelization, which is stupid. You shouldn't have to read the novelization to tell how the main bad guy actually survived. It's a big twist. You need to explain that kind of thing. So, and then he's overpowered too. Like, he figures out they're a dyad and easily just drains the life essence of both Rey and Kylo, which, by the way, since when has that been a thing? I know it was a thing in Legends, but it's kind of dumb. If you can just drain the life essence of things, why don't you just drain the life essence instead of, like, shooting Force Lightning? They couldn't block it. Like, I don't know. Anyways, he drains their life essence, and while he's waiting for Rey to stand up, I guess, because that's super difficult, Kylo climbs out a giant, or Ben, I guess. Ben climbs out of a giant hole, and all Rey does is stand up. Kind of shows how inconsistent she is compared to, like, their Ben and Rey's power levels are. But anyways, then Palpatine shoots lightning at the Rebel fleet and is taking out, like, half of their ships. But they're taking a ridiculously long time to fall to the ground, and he's not hitting his ships at all. So I guess he's, like, that powerful. Like, it's honestly just so ridiculous. Not only does he survive, but that he shoots that amount of lightning. And then he shoots lightning at Rey, and she's blocking it with her lightsaber. And of course, she holds up 2 lightsabers, and it kills him. Like, come on, JJ. And the worst part is they didn't even need Palpatine. Like, everyone's like, oh, who's the villain gonna be? Because they didn't like Snoke dying. I guess. I don't know. I don't know why they didn't know. But Kylo could have been the villain. It's just, Palpatine did not need to come back, and he should never have come back. And I'll probably do, like, a whole segment on that. But anyways, Palpatine, despite coming back, is number 5 on the list. And number 4 is Anakin / Vader Skywalker. So yeah, Anakin is, like, what Star Wars is about. Well, he's not what Star Wars is about. He's the main character. So yeah, he's a hero. Like, honestly, he's not that good of a Jedi, but he's a great hero. Like in the Clone Wars, he's, like, rescuing everyone. He's always putting his life on the line for the Republic, but also for the people he loves. Super admirable, super brave. Unfortunately, as I mentioned, he's always putting his life on the line for other people. And in the end, he put everyone's life on the line for just one person, that being Padme. So he killed all the Jedi to save Padme. Big mistake. Empire comes into, like, yeah. You know the story. It's a great story of why the Jedi are the way they are. Anyways, then Vader is this super menacing thing, like, barely understood by the Empire, feared by everyone, including the people in the Empire, for just years. Well, I suppose he's not feared by everyone. His troops, like in Thrawn Alliances, his troops are like they just love him. It's great. He sharpens himself. He's no longer just the chosen one. He's no longer just powerful. He's no longer just gonna swoop in and just take everyone out through sheer power. He's gotta be sharp. He's gotta be focused. He can't. He's not. He can't rely on his natural talent as much. He's got to focus more, which makes him just as powerful as Anakin, or at least probably more powerful, to be honest. His suit is really tough. Anyways, Vader, Anakin, super cool. But his turn to the light is even better. Luke, his son, has faith in him, and he turns to the light, sacrifices himself, to save not only his son, but to save so many people in the galaxy from further suffering by kind of killing the Emperor again. This is why I don't like Palpatine coming back, because then Vader didn't kill the Emperor. He just threw him down a shaft, so he would have to move to a new body. Oh well. So yeah, that entire story is great. He brought balance to the Force after leaving it in darkness for a while. He's Obi-Wan's brother. He loves him. Yeah. He destroyed the Sith, but he also joined them. His relationship with Obi-Wan is great. His relationship with Ahsoka is great. His relationship with Padme is just the worst. His relationship with Jar Jar is fine, I guess. He becomes Darth Vader, and his relationship with pretty much everyone is great. Well, not in universe, but great to watch. Yeah, just a great character. A great story. Anyways, we went past Anakin and Vader, so you know these next ones are going to be great. Number 3 is Maul. Not Darth Maul, just Maul. Because he has one of the coolest stories in Star Wars. The 6 movies are about him. Or, not about Maul. The 6 movies, like Lucas's trilogy, is about Anakin Skywalker. But a lot of Star Wars, a big portion of the animated series and I guess the first movie is about Maul and his story. I just really like watching Maul. Sam Witwer did an excellent job. Ray Park did an excellent job. And as much as I hate that Maul survives literally getting cut in half, I love that he survived because they did so good with him in the Clone Wars and in Rebels. They made his character make sense. Just like how Anakin is an example of why the Jedi don't have attachments. Basically why the Jedi are the way they are. Maul is an example of one of the main types of Sith. So Sith aren't like the Jedi. They're not motivated by the same thing. They're not united. They're motivated by lots of different not lots of different things. They're motivated by a few different emotions, I guess. Lots of different things. For example, Anakin was motivated by Padme. Dooku's motivated by greed, I guess. So they're motivated by like different things, even though it's similar ideas. But Maul is a great example of being motivated by revenge. So at first, he was just motivated by revenge against the Jedi because Palpatine made him eat some ash sometime and he had a vision. So I guess he's super hateful. But after he gets cut in half, he survives through his hatred of Kenobi. And I love every time I think of Maul and Kenobi, I just hear Sam Witwer yelling Kenobi, like that scene in Twin Sons in Tatooine, where he yells Kenobi, is just such a good performance. I need to drink real quick. Man, the road's getting dry. Hello?
Hello.
What?
Have you seen your brother?
No, I haven't. He's not in here. Okay. I guess my brother disappeared. That's my dad saying, "Is Jerian here again?" Anyways, so yeah, Darth Maul, pretty much a great example of revenge. So, obviously his vengeance against Kenobi, but after having a long time, after Palpatine kills Savage and takes his criminal empire away from him, almost, at least takes it, basically traps him in the prison, and yeah, he gets super angry with Sidious, and then he's got not only Kenobi to deal with, but he's also got Sidious to basically strike back against. And everything Maul does is to either get back against Sidious or get back against Kenobi. And it's a super, I don't know how to say it. It's a super emotional story. Super fueled by emotion. Great example of the dark side. Yeah. He's got a lot of awesome fight scenes. His battle with Pre Vizsla, his battle with Ahsoka, of course, the Duel of the Fates. He's got his duel with Kenobi in Twin Sons. All his duels with Kenobi are great. What are some other ones? In Rebels, his kind of duels with the Inquisitors. He doesn't show off too much then. One thing about that someone pointed out is he doesn't seem too powerful in Rebels. Like, he's kind of not that powerful. Like, he's taking out Inquisitors, but you would expect Maul to take out Inquisitors pretty easily. Especially if he got a lot more powerful in that time. But keep in mind, he was trapped on, what is it? I'm blanking on the name. He was trapped on that Sith place, in that Sith temple for a long time. So he's probably really malnourished. Yeah, he's probably not in good shape. Probably lost a lot of weight, but not healthy. Too much weight gone. Not enough food. That type of thing. So let's move on from Maul to my number 2 pick, which is Yoda. I love Yoda. I think Yoda is just super wise. I'm going to start with his introduction in The Empire Strikes Back. We see this guy, and he's like making super funny jokes, like Luke's like, "I'm looking for someone," and Yoda's like, "Found someone you..." I'm not gonna try and do a Yoda voice. I used to be able to do it, but now I have an old person voice. He's like, "Found someone or I'm blanking on the words. Found someone you have," I would say, which is, it's true, I guess. Not exactly what Luke meant, but that's kind of Yoda for you. Another great scene is when he is getting Anakin to help him escape. In the Clone Wars, he's getting Anakin to help him escape because he's having visions, and Qui-Gon's trying to contact him, and he needs to go to Dagobah. and he gets Anakin to help, and Anakin's like, why did you? I don't remember the exact words, but like, why did you get me to help you? Why do you need this done? Or why me, basically? And Yoda's like, well, you're really good at breaking rules. Like, that's your specialty, which is a great line, I think. I just think he's super wise. He's got a lot of sayings that um, explain what the Jedi philosophy is and what they think about the Force, how the Force works, like fear, anger, hate, and suffering. That line he's got. The whole thing where he lifts the X-wing and Luke's like, I don't believe it, and he's like, that is why you fail. Size matters not, only in your mind. He's got do or do not, there is no try, which on the surface seems illogical because how can you do something without trying? But it's about your mindset. You're not trying to do something, you are doing that thing. It's hard to explain without having experienced it, but it's basically a mindset thing. He's just super wise, and I really like that about him. But part of his wisdom is that he is much like Kenobi and Quinlan Voss. He's willing to make jokes, which is why I started out with his first appearance in Empire Strikes Back and that line with Anakin. And he's always just in a good mood. Well, not always. He's always, again, not always. He's most of the time willing to crack jokes to make people feel better. He's willing to, I don't know. He's just super wise. He mostly knows what someone needs. Like, he probably should have challenged Anakin more when Anakin came and he's like, oh, I'm having visions of someone I know dying. He probably should have pressed him more to try and get Anakin to confess, because I think that could have saved Anakin from the dark side, from Palpatine. But I mean, you can't expect Yoda to be perfect. Yeah. So that whole arc where he goes and explores how to become a Force ghost is so cool. You get to see Yoda being tested and trained. Like, he's lived for like at least 800 years. He is extremely powerful. He's extremely wise, and yet he's still is learning and being tested. His wisdom, and his what's the word for it? Like, his tenacity is being tested. That's a great arc. And also it explains a lot about the Force, which I really like. Like, it doesn't say this is what the Force is, blah 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 blah. It just tells you some things about the Force that you can kind of look at and piece together with all the rest of the stuff and be like, and you see a larger whole, which is super cool to me. I love analyzing the Force. I love analyzing what balance means. So yeah, Yoda, awesome guy, super wise, super powerful and tenacious. Yeah, probably the wisest Jedi ever. Moving on to my number one, my favorite character in Star Wars right now, because it might change tomorrow. Honestly, I'm feeling Yoda is my favorite right now, to be honest. But you know what? I'm going to say he's my favorite because he's usually my favorite, and he was my favorite earlier. My favorite Star Wars character is Thrawn. Grand Admiral Thrawn. He is such a cool character. Pretty much, actually, I'm going to count real quick. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 of my 10 characters that I chose as my top 10 are Force sensitive. Thrawn is not. But he's not just as powerful, he's just as useful in a fight. So Thrawn is, if you don't know who Thrawn is, by the way, I would highly suggest of course, watching Rebels, because he's in there. He's the blue skinned guy with the red eyes that heroes fight all the time. Um, but more than that, I would suggest reading Timothy Zahn's trilogy, and of course the new book, which I haven't read yet. I'm still waiting for it. But those three books, super awesome. My favorite books in Star Wars canon: Thrawn Alliances, Thrawn Treason. Awesome books, awesome character. Thrawn is brilliant. Um, I love just reading and watching him like think, like, how do you say it? Just like solving problems and coming up with tactical things, anticipating moves. And another thing I really like is his study of artwork, because Thrawn uses artwork to challenge or to understand his enemies more, which I think is just so cool. And if you saw my Q&A video, I actually tried doing that with what's his name? I'm blanking on his name. The guy who did the original concept art for the Star Wars movies. I spent, I don't remember how long. I think it was like 30 minutes or 45 minutes or something. And I looked through a whole bunch of his artwork, like his concept art for Star Wars, and I kind of just wrote down what I think that would say about his naval strategies, as though I were Thrawn. Personally, I find it much easier to analyze music than artwork, and that's probably just because I find it easier to access to basically experience music than it is to experience art, because I can be doing something while I do music, but I can't really be doing that much if I'm doing art or looking at art, except for maybe listening to like a podcast or something. But I can do that with music anyways, because the music I listen to is wordless, which is probably another reason I can analyze it better. Because I mean, when you're listening to music with words, when you analyze it, you're probably going to analyze the words, which usually don't tell you much about tactics that they're going to use, or what they think about, what they're other than the topic of the song. They don't tell you that much. But by listening to non-verbal music, I'm used to, instead of evaluating music by the words, evaluating it by the melodies, the backgrounds, what instruments they use, what it's trying to say on a non-language based level. So anyways, Thrawn he's just so brilliant. Not only can he analyze your art and kind of predict what you're gonna do, but he's just smart in general. When Anakin when Anakin sensed him, he said Thrawn's brain was just super organized. It's just so organized. He's so good at putting details together, at just seeing what's coming, basically. And I really respect that about him. Also, he's actually pretty wise too. Um, like he looks past the basic things and he sees the philosophical aspects of situations. I don't know. If you haven't read them, just read the Thrawn books. They are so good. Um, Honestly, Thrawn is just the coolest character. I mean, one of the coolest characters. It's hard to decide. There's a lot of awesome characters in Star Wars, like Dexter Jetster, who they really need to make a book about. But anyways, that's my favorite characters. If you're watching on the rebroadcast, say something in the comments. Is there anyone watching? I can't tell. I think there's 2 people watching right now. Let me see if I can check that. Yes, my information says that there is 2 people watching right now. So, if you're watching, and I know one of them is me, Oh, wait. There is people commenting. My phone failed me. Oh well. Okay, so almost an hour ago. Lol, they're fine. Oh, Kit Fisto is epic. Yes, Kit Fisto is epic. Thanks Noah Logs, for commenting. Super appreciate it. Sorry I didn't see it. I don't know. My phone wasn't like reloaded or something. Same. Is the chat broken? I don't know if it's broken, to be honest. Yeah, Palp killed him so fast. It wasn't my favorite battle. Is that, but still a good one though. Is that Kylo? I can't tell. Oh, that's probably Kit Fisto. Yeah. Yes. Palp killed him, Agan Kolar, and what's his name? CC Tin or CAC Tin. I don't know how to pronounce it. Yes, Ahsoka. I know a lot of people really like Ahsoka. So I'm a pretty small channel. I get like 30 views. That's a good number, for me. But what do you call it? I lost my train of thought. Right, but then I made my Ahsoka versus Kanan video, and it's got like 215 views or something. And I think my second biggest is also an Ahsoka video. Ahsoka versus Krell. So if you haven't seen those, check them out. I think they're pretty good. You might too. And if you think they're terrible, tell me in the comments. I'd love to know why. So yeah, Ahsoka, a great character. Probably around placing 11 to 15 to me. I don't know. It's hard to rate characters because there's so many good ones. And then yeah, you've a bunch of other comments that I can't quite tell what it's exactly talking about. Yeah, sorry I didn't see this earlier. I thought I have my live stream pulled up on my phone, and like I had the chat open, so I would have thought it would have worked, but I guess not. Yeah, so I'll try to see those in the future, hopefully, so I can tell more of what you're talking about, because other than I think it's the Kit Fisto one that I know for sure that's what you're talking about. Or the Ahsoka one too. So, yeah. Sorry I didn't see those. Great to see you're here. Ahsoka's a great character, I agree. Kit Fisto, also awesome. Let's move on to the next segment, which is a new one. It's, so, basically, you probably haven't seen, this guy's channel, but there's this really awesome YouTuber named Shadiversity. He covers mostly like medieval stuff, so like swords are a big thing. Just one thing he's been doing a lot recently is longbow stuff. And another thing he does a lot is like what is castle construction, what is that kind of stuff. Which I find super interesting, but he also does stuff like medieval fantasy, writing tips, superhero stuff. But one thing he also covers is Star Wars, which of course I find very appealing because I love Star Wars. So let me see if my chat is working. I can't tell. I don't know what's wrong with it. Anyways, super cool channel. If that sounds personality, very motivational. And I'm kind of ripping off his content, although not really. So he has a series called Fight Autopsy. So basically he looks at a fight. He's done a few Star Wars ones, and he analyzes it based on his knowledge about historically accurate European martial arts or whatever. Historical European martial arts. HEMA. Yeah. He knows a lot about swords, he knows a lot about fighting, so he analyzes based on that. And of course he does keep in mind that like the certain character motivations of people, but primarily he's looking at the swordsmanship in general. yeah, so that's basically what I'm going to be doing, except I'm going to focus a lot more on force abilities because, I mean, he doesn't mention those much at all. Um, I'm also going to focus more on like the character motivations, what exactly everyone is trying to accomplish in this in the fight, and to a lesser degree, I'm also going to focus on the swordsmanship because that's also something I'm interested in. So yeah, let's just yeah. So as you can probably tell from the screen, I'm going to be analyzing the Duel of the Fates. One of the best lightsaber battles in the movies. Just a great battle. Um, Darth Maul, two blades. First time we saw that. Let's get into it. Okay, so again, two blades. Let me talk a bit about what I've experienced with two blades. Actually, let me get to a cooler. Actually, okay, there we go. Two blades. So Darth Maul has two blades. I've used two like a double bladed kind of thing before. It's when I used a double bladed thing, my blades were a lot shorter, and that had a big impact on, of course, how I used it. But one of the biggest advantages you get is surprise because people are trying to focus. Like usually when you battle someone who's got a sword, especially for the Jedi who pretty much always just use one blade and it's a sword. There's exceptions to that rule, but pretty much always it's a sword versus a sword. So they're not focused on different kind of things. So Maul's biggest advantage with a dual blade is probably going to be his just the surprise he gets from a second blade. The ability to attack once and then follow through, and your second blade comes up out of nowhere. It's just a super cool way to do it, or not. That's a dumb thing to say. It's surprising, and even with short blades, you can still catch people by surprise and defeat them basically. So yeah. So with this, one thing he's gonna really struggle with though, if he's got basically a double sword, is space. If he's in a tight space, there is no way he's gonna be able to move that around. Each blade is as long as a sword, and he's got two of them. Like, for example, whenever I think of running out of space, I think of that scene in Revenge of the Sith where Anakin and Obi-Wan go through that hallway and they're like scraping the walls. Maul would not be able to move his lightsaber around there. He would get destroyed. Which, yeah. But Naboo is a pretty big open space. They've got large rooms. They're really wealthy, so it's not going to matter that much in this fight. But yeah, surprise is going to be his biggest thing. Space is going to be a negative thing usually, but not in this case. Another thing to watch out for, or another thing you struggle with if you've got a staff, is stabs are a lot harder to do, which most Star Wars characters don't use stabs as often as they should, because stabs are extremely effective, although not as flashy, and not as good for blaster fire. Like Dooku would probably use stabs more. He does use stabs more because his style is not focused on blaster fire like at all. Like he can still block blaster fire, but his main style, Form 2 Makashi, is not focused on blaster fire, which is why it can have a lot more stabs. But if you've got two blades, stabbing is very difficult. One stab thing I do a lot, especially if I get hit in the hand. How we play is if you get hit in the hand, you have to not use that weapon. Is I'll swing with one and then do like an overhead stab, almost like I'm throwing a javelin and stab down. But obviously that doesn't look very cool, so they're not going to do it in here. So yeah, I don't know how he would stab, but I guess he can. They ignite their lightsabers. Okay. Yeah, okay. So Obi-Wan flips over, and now they've got him surrounded. That's super good tactics. Obi-Wan, of course, is a lot younger. Qui-Gon's um not needs to conserve his energy more. So Obi-Wan's the one to flip. Um, Darth Maul is he's in a good. It's hard to see two different. It's hard to fight without seeing two different things at once. That probably doesn't apply though, because Maul is force sensitive, and he's got two blades, so he's got that going for him. So while that is a super good move, that would be basically game over for most people. Maul is well adapted to that strategy. From here, he kind of fends them off, struggling with two of them before kicking Qui-Gon. Which that's another thing I like about Maul is he incorporates his feet a lot into fighting. Which, if it weren't for the style of fighting that we play with, I would probably do a lot more of too. Oh, and by the way, sorry I'm playing this on half speed. It's a bit slow, but that's so people can analyze it just like they do in the movies. Anyways, yeah, then Maul uses Force power. Notably, most people think of Maul as never using the Force or not using the Force very much. But he actually uses the Force more than the Jedi, both of them combined in this fight. I think he uses it only twice, but that's still over. That's over 10 times more than the other Jedi use it because they use it 0. So technically, it's over 10,000 times. But yeah, whatever. They never use the Force. Maul uses the Force twice. Of course, when I say use the Force, they're always using the Force. What I mean is like telekinesis or Force lightning or beast control or something where they're obviously using the Force. Let's see if chat is working. Yeah, okay. I think it's working. Okay, so he opens the door, gets an escape route. That's pretty much all he used the Force for. So, actually, I'm going to make this even slower. 0.5 maybe. Okay, so it's a high stroke, low stroke. Yeah, just solid fighting. One thing Maul is doing very well is he is keeping them separated. So he just kicked Obi-Wan over, and then he put Qui-Gon right in the way of when Obi-Wan comes up. Then by the time Obi-Wan rushes around, he knocks Qui-Gon to the side. So yeah, Maul is fighting very defensively right now. Like keeping his guard tight. If the Jedi went for like a stab, well, I don't know. He's keeping his guard very tight. Lots of circular motions, while the Jedi are rushing in and just trying to batter through his defenses with speed and strength. Notice he's doing lots of twists to just knock their blades aside. And, of course, he's forced to retreat to this ledge. And this next moment is pretty great. They're all waiting for something to do. Like, who's going to make the first move, basically. What is that move going to be, and how is it going to be countered? And so Obi-Wan fakes. Qui-Gon goes, which forces Maul to retreat with a backflip. And the Jedi jump. They both attack at the same spot. It looks cool, I guess. And then we get this nice wide shot so we can see a lot of what's going on. One thing I don't like is when they do close-up shots because you can't really see what's going on. But here you see Maul is like struggling to fend off both at once. Again, he gets a kick which separates them. Knocks Kenobi all the way down 2 levels. He barely grabs on before Qui-Gon just punches him across the face, knocks him down a level. Yeah. And this next part, I'm always super confused as to what's going on. So I'm going to like watch super closely. So Maul is on the ground. Qui-Gon is over him. 0.25 speed. Here we go. What happens here? And they cut. Okay, so Maul kicks him in the face. Okay. I mean, they needed to have Maul stand up. Yeah, so then they fight, and Qui-Gon's pressing the offense again. Of course, that's going to kill him because he should just wait for Obi-Wan. But Qui-Gon, in a lightsaber duel, he feels, he doesn't think. which can help him a lot. He's very in tune with the Force. All that, like, I know the advantages of it, but he's not thinking rationally. He's trying to defeat Maul with pure offense. He doesn't want to be on defense. He wants to be on offense because it controls the fight. But he's getting separated from Obi-Wan. Like, as much as offense helps you control the fight, with in terms of who's attacking, where the attack is coming from, that stuff. When you're defending, or when you're retreating, you control the fight because you choose where it's going. And since Maul is fighting two people, that's very important for him to keep them separated because otherwise he'll be overwhelmed. So yeah, they go to these weird ray shield things and they stop. They start fighting, or stop fighting. They're blocked by these shield things. Yeah, not much to say about that. One thing I don't understand is why. Where is it? Right here. Yeah, Maul tests the shield. If it was breakable, like, that would ruin his entire plan, right? So why would he even test? Because that could give them an advantage. So then it's interesting to see what they're doing. Maul's pacing. He's focusing in. He's getting ready for the fight. This is just something you do it to, like, you're basically meditating on focus, like, on your strength, on your strategies, on the things that you know will be effective in a fight. So he's really focusing on the fight, while Qui-Gon is, again, he's feeling, not thinking. He's probably focusing on what the Force is, or, like, basically just tuning himself in with the living Force. Actually, I'm going to pause it real quick. In Obi-Wan, he wasn't really. He was probably thinking desperately, oh no, I'm so far from my master. I got to get there in time. And those ray shields aren't going to stay open for long. So Qui-Gon comes out, super aggressive. Again, people think of Maul as super aggressive, but he's really not that aggressive. He's on the defensive for pretty much the entire fight. And yeah, Obi-Wan doesn't make it, not quite fast enough. Come on. There we go. Yeah, so here Maul is on the offensive. Qui-Gon can't quite keep up with speed, so he turns over to here it is. He refocuses and tries to focus more on strength to try and take over. But of course Maul is stronger too. He's just more fit than Qui-Gon, is what it comes down to. I think endurance plays a big role in this fight. So yeah. And then Maul, like, basically just pushes his blade up and up and up until he can bop him in the face with his lightsaber, spin and stab him through the stomach before looking at Qui-Gon to try and instill fear or something. Which ultimately works very well. Because Obi-Wan lets himself get taken advantage of, basically. Although Maul was a bit arrogant in that because he didn't anticipate quite how fast Obi-Wan would be. Let me skip a bunch. Again, they're doing the same kind of meditating. Obi-Wan's... I think he's meditating more like Darth Maul, actually. Focusing on his emotions, on harnessing his power for combat. Here he is, he's bouncing up and down. I did that a lot. It's actually pretty effective. He comes out, lightsaber swinging, dodges, block. Yeah, just a great fight. Maul is doing pretty well, but of course, he underestimates him. I'm trying to see how Qui-Gon, because I know Obi-Wan cuts his lightsaber in half, but I don't remember how he does it. Obi-Wan keeps getting inside Maul's guard, which Maul should be more careful of. Again, it's a close shot. I can't see what's going on. He cuts it during a close shot. Okay, I think what happened is Obi-Wan just overwhelmed him with speed. Yeah. Maul retreats, flourishing his lightsaber. He's flourishing his lightsaber so that Obi-Wan doesn't have a target hit. Like if he hits, it's probably gonna get intercepted. Another great kick. They regroup again, and Darth Maul does a weird flip thing. I don't know why he does that. Obi-Wan's like slowing down basically. He expended too much energy. I think he's trying to refocus again here, so he goes too far. That's a great duck, by the way. Blade lock, and then force push, second force use of the duel, both by Darth Maul. Obi-Wan catches onto this thing, and these next 10 seconds, there's not much to say except that Darth Maul in this situation is extremely arrogant, and that's what kills him. In fact, that's something that happens a lot with Darth Maul is, oh boy, it seems my stream was suspended for policy violation. Oh boy. That one, yeah. Right, that. Okay. So let's see what happened. Great.